Hola, ¿qué pasa? Welcome to episode 25. This is about idea development. You can't read that board, so I'm going to tell you about it. Let's go. Hola, ¿qué pasa? Welcome to Monday evening and welcome to the office. What's happening this week? It's been a long day. What time is it? It is 7 o'clock in the evening. 6:59. We'll give it 7. Been here most of the day. I went to a networking breakfast this morning and nobody turned up. I'm gonna stop shaking this table. There we go. Oh, stop. Okay, so I went to a networking breakfast this morning and nobody turned up. Great, that was valuable. Then I came back to the office, got some work done. We had a couple of calls today. We have a lot of work on this week. Why do people text me when I'm recording? We have a couple of videos, animated videos to storyboard out and start developing. We have ads accounts to get ready for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. We have other ads accounts who are more lead gen and not kind of e-commerce based. We have Klaviyo accounts to set up and optimize for Black Friday as well. Decky McAleenan shorts shorts and walkout t-shirts. What were supposed to be for his fight on Cage Warriors Newcastle in about 3 weeks time, though he's now off the card. Those t-shirts are still in production and should be done before the end of this week. What else? We have an Entrepreneur Experiment live podcast on Thursday night with Chupi Sweetman, founder of Chupi Jewelry. That should be an interesting one. Back in the private cinema in, Iconic Offices off Stephen's Green in Dublin. The same one that I was at for the Pat Phelan interview back in June-ish time. Whatever episode that was, I'll link it up that side. That's a lot happening this week. And I'm also going to start some valuable tips. It's time to start giving some value on the channel. It's time to start giving something back to you. Instead of just recording what I'm doing day to day and week to week, it's time to start getting some of the knowledge out of my head, some of the experience that I have through brand building, brand development, graphic design, marketing, and get it out to you and help you succeed. What I'm going to talk about this week is idea development. So I have shiny object syndrome. I'm not going to deny that. I develop ideas in my head all the time. When I say develop ideas, I come up with kind of really rough ideas of a niche that needs a product or a service, or I come up with mad kind of ideas. I'll be looking around when I'm driving along and I'll see something and I'll flick an idea in my head and that'll kind of sit in the back of my head, and then I'll be in the shower maybe and that idea will develop. The shower where all great ideas are developed. But then further on down the line, I might forget about that idea, park it. What I'll do is I use Notion to kind of pretty much plan my life essentially, and have a section in there, a page, a spreadsheet, whatever you want to call it, that pretty much I just record ideas in, come up with an idea and I'll pop it in there and I'll leave it and I'll come back to it. I might take out a notebook and start running around kind of ideas and just like splattering about words all over the page to do with that idea. And I'll kind of work on the business prospect or the product or the service that way and see if there's something there. Generally, there's not. That's the point. We go through hundreds, thousands of ideas before we actually get something useful. So in terms of developing a business, should you jump at the first idea that you have? No, probably not. You should maybe flesh it out, have a think about it, go to a different idea. Something within that one then might spark an avenue that you could go with the previous one or a different one that you've had in the past. So some of the things to think about when you're talking about idea development are competitor research, obviously the market research, what's actually in the market at the minute. If your product or your service isn't in the market, is there a reason that that's not there? Is there a reason that one of the competitors or someone else, anyone else, hasn't developed that in the first place? Has it been developed before and failed? Maybe it was at the wrong time. There's so many ideas that have come and gone and then revived 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years later when the timing is actually right. So timing is a key part of it as well. And then there's obviously the saying, I'm going to pronounce it in an American way because it sounds better. There's riches in the niches. It's niches, Americans, but anyway, we get the point. There's riches where there's a niche, that's where you want to be. That's where you want to position your brand or your product or your service. But you can also go too niche. There is a balance between finding a niche and being very niche. This is something that I've kind of encountered with the brand of Coffee&Kimuras. Is obviously Jiu-Jitsu is a growing niche, but it's a niche nonetheless. MMA is like an expansion of that niche. obviously a bigger kind of area. There's more people interested in MMA, but a lot of that is from a non-participatory standpoint, which is no good for a brand like Coffee&Kimuras because fightwear is our primary product. But then I've niched it down even further by adding a coffee element. So it's only coffee drinkers within Jiu-Jitsu/MMA who are actually going to engage with my brand. So have I gone a little bit too far? I've kind of hemmed and hawed over this a few times, and I've thought about it and thought maybe I'd be better off rebranding to a more generic kind of brand concept and identity now that I have a kind of a foothold in the market, which is another way you can look at it too, of going really, really niche, getting your foothold, getting reviews, having a really, really targeted ICP and ideal customer profile, and then getting your kind of brand reputation and a foothold in the market and expanding it from there outside of that niche and going into like related niches. Let's say going from a smaller circle into a slightly bigger circle and then expand into a much wider market. So there's a couple of ways you can go about that. That is the tip for Monday. Hang around for that. Hola, pasa. Welcome to, what day is it? Wednesday morning. On the way to the office, and I'm going to continue on from what I was speaking about on Monday about developing a brand idea, a business idea, and talking about niches, because what I was kind of finalizing this morning, and this is kind of related to the fact that we've had to hold off on the releasing the new signature gi, is something that's been in the back of my head for months now, to be honest, is the anti-Decaf Jiu-Jitsu club range that we have is obviously niching down. So we have a niche in Jiu-Jitsu and MMA. We've niched it a little bit more by kind of focusing on the coffee end, coffee drinkers. And then within Coffee&Kimuras, then we've the anti-Decaf Jiu-Jitsu club range, which is essentially creating another niche within a niche within a niche, which is crazy, to be honest. Obviously, the percentage of coffee drinkers who drink caffeinated coffee versus decaf is it's significantly higher than, say, the decaf proportion of that segment, of that niche. But it's still kind of eliminating potential customers there. So firstly, the anti-Decaf Jiu-Jitsu club design itself is one that I did, I don't know, probably when I started the brand, not long after I started the brand. So we're talking like 4 or 5 years ago. And because I did it, I wasn't fully happy with it. So I've kind of gone back and revamped it and added another element to it. So in the next couple of weeks, I'll probably wait until after Black Friday. I'll decide today if I'm going to wait or not. But by the time this video is out, you'll know if the new range is out, it's out. If not, it'll be after Black Friday. So what I've done is essentially added a couple of elements, taken kind of inspiration from the original inspiration, which was Anti-Social Social Club, and the way they've kind of added artistic and artwork elements into the design. So we've added kind of coffee elements to the design. But while I was doing that, I said, okay, right, now's the time to kind of revamp that range, but also add in another range and stop eliminating the decaf people. So we have a new range coming out, the Anti-Caffeine Combat Club, which I think is quite cool design. Something a little bit, it's just an extension of the anti-decaf range essentially, and still having those two niches, but being able to target both sides of it. So say that like it's a turf war, but it seems like it is from caffeine drinkers versus decaf drinkers. It is a turf war. But yeah, anyway, you know what I mean. So that's the plan. That's what I was working on this morning. Now on the way into the office, a couple of calls, couple of meetings today, and yeah, more kind of ad campaigns to set up ahead of Black Friday, but all is good. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about idea development and naming, and thinking about the name and kind of aspects to consider, thinking about considerations to have when you're naming a new brand, a new business, a new product, and kind of ways to firstly develop name concepts, but also then eliminate name concepts more so, and seeing what's going to be a kind of a useful, what's going to be a productive name, what's going to be an effective brand or business or product name, and how we can kind of optimize that. See you tomorrow. Well, I don't know, there might be another clip later on, we'll see. Also, while I'm here, on a slightly separate topic but related to where I am, is these car clips. I was told after last week's episode that the clips of me recording in the car, I seem to be able to gather my thoughts much better and I articulate things a bit better maybe. I'm not too sure. I'm not sure why that is, but let me know what you think. Am I better speaking while I'm driving or while I'm sitting? Hola, pasa. Welcome to Thursday evening and welcome to Almost Dublin. I am on the road to another live podcast with the king, Gary Fox. I just had a shower in a rush before I left, so my hair is still fluffy, so I have some hair powder with me to fix that up before I go in, before I get there. Almost had a hairy moment there. Car decided, while I was on the motorway in the overtaking lane, car decided that the accelerator just wasn't going to work anymore, so I had to pull in, restart and go again, but it's okay now, I hope. Touch wood. So where are we? Yeah, today was a manic day in the office, but all is good. And just to expand slightly on what I was speaking about yesterday, another kind of aspect of idea development is obviously the branding, and I'll get into a bit more about brand development next week, but thinking simply about a name for your idea, which is, people can freeze over a name and can kind of analysis by paralysis, or paralysis by analysis, whatever the phrase is, that thing that kind of limits you actually being productive and moving forward, and you get stuck on something that really doesn't matter. Essentially coming up with like 3 or 4 or 5 names, and the easiest way to like eliminate what is an option or isn't an option essentially is by looking up available domains and available social media handles. That's always my go-to when there's like a brand development project that I'm involved in, either for myself or for a client or the agency, is they're the kind of limiting factors. So let's come up with 4 or 5 potential names. What are the domain options that we have? Can we get the .com? Do we need to go with a .co? Is it a tech space? Can we go with .io? Is it Ireland specific? That we can go with .ie, and then kind of looking at social media, because obviously that's going to be a huge part of the business, and looking across all the channels, Instagram, essentially TikTok, and even YouTube to a certain extent, Facebook as well, Pinterest. Like, there's so many options there that, depending on where your ICP, your ideal customer profile, depending on where they hang out and where you're going to be targeting those people, it's a good idea to kind of look at those channels and see what names you can get there. So that is another kind of aspect of brand development, more so than idea development, but it is kind of related, and it's something that I'll get into a little bit more next week in terms of the branding and the brand development side, because I am the brand builder and this is behind the brand builder, so we'll dig into that a bit more next week. But for now, it's time to go and listen to Chupi Sweetman of Chupi Jewelry talk about, I think, raising capital. I think they raised quite a lot of money in the last 12 to 18 months. So, and they're doing quite well. They've opened a store somewhere in Dublin, premium location, or maybe they're in like Arnott's or Brian Thomas or something, I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll find out. Thanks to Gary Fox on the Entrepreneur Experiment podcast. Hola, pasa. Welcome to Saturday afternoon. Can't clap my hands because I'm holding a camera, and it is the first time that I've recorded myself while holding the camera. So I usually just set it up on a little tripod and chat. But we're changing up, switching it up, know what I'm saying? Yeah, so out for a Saturday afternoon stroll after morning and early afternoon on the laptop. What I was doing today was kind of an extension of what I've been talking about all week in terms of idea development. So I think I've mentioned it a couple of times over the last, I don't know, however, pretty much 6 months since I've been doing these videos. I think next week is going to be, it is episode 25, so next week 26 would be 6 months. There you go. And I did actually miss 1 week or 2 weeks. So essentially I've been doing these videos for 6 months, and this is the first time that I've really provided any kind of value in terms of giving some information about idea development, which is what I was speaking about this week. So back to what I was doing today on the laptop was kind of idea development around an event idea, a clothing brand idea, and how can I describe the third thing? It's kind of like a commercial real estate, fitness, marketing, tech combination, combining pretty much everything that I do on a daily basis already and a couple of other things that I'm interested in, and trying to kind of wrap those up all into one. The problem with that idea is it needs a significant capital input at the very start to kind of get it going. So there's kind of that barrier to get over. So trying to develop the idea for that and get to a stage that I suppose that I can pitch it to investors and see who could get in on that. So if anyone has any contacts who might be, it's probably like a commercial real estate fitness niche, that if anyone has kind of contacts who would kind of bounce between those two industries or would have interest there or might want to speak about something there, definitely put me in touch. I would be very grateful. But what I was doing was essentially playing about with those kind of three ideas and seeing what I can develop out of those, and touching on what I'll be talking about on next week's video, which is kind of brand development and how you get started on that end of things. So obviously from the agency front, we deal with a lot of different clients and a lot of different industries. So I get the advantage of kind of being able to dig into other people's businesses, thinking about what they want to do, what they're trying to do, coming up with ideas, even from a new brand development standpoint, thinking about how that brand is going to be perceived, what the customer is going to be, and kind of getting to that point. And obviously I have the advantage of that is my job essentially, is brand development, and I can do it myself. But what I've done over the last while and what I'm thinking about doing with these brands over the next while is getting other people's input, other people's ideas, and yeah, it's so that it's not all just coming from me, that I have other kind of perspectives. That's the word I'm trying to get at. So in terms of idea development, getting into kind of mood boards, and this is what I'll be speaking about next week, is mood boards. Don't know what happened there. Mood boards, brand development, kind of placement or brand placement considerations, animation potential, things like that, and how those kind of considerations come into developing a brand. So obviously, because brand development is my area of expertise, let's call it, I can do that myself. But if you don't feel that you have the creativity or the potential or the skill set to be able to do that, then kind of mood boarding out what you envisage the brand to be is very, very important in terms of getting someone else, a freelancer or an agency, a brand expert, let's say a brand builder, to develop that out for you. Is you need to have your vision down for them. They'll obviously come with their inputs and their expertise, but it is essentially your baby, so you want to be able to kind of give them some sort of guidance on that. That's what I was kind of working on today. That's what I'll be speaking a bit more about next week and delving a little bit more into. I didn't actually speak about how the live podcast went the other night. Hold on, someone's coming along. Let's get past them first.
A few moments later.
All right, so back to where I was. What was I talking about? Entrepreneur Experiment live podcast the other night was incredible. Really, really insightful. I don't know if I spoke about it after. I don't think I did. So yeah, it was Chippy Sweetman and James Doody from IBI talking about raising finance. Chippy raised 3.25 million, and yeah, really, really insightful podcast, really interesting. So that'll be out with the Entrepreneur Experiment in a couple of weeks. And what else was I going to talk about? The other thing was, this week I spent a bit of time and I got someone else in to kind of give me a hand on that, was upgrading our klaviyo email flows. So with Coffee&Kimuras, I developed the klaviyo automated flows a few years ago, and obviously they've been printing cash essentially in the background. If you don't know what that's about, email marketing, automated email marketing in particular, is such an underutilized aspect of e-commerce, and it's essentially retention marketing. So retargeting to existing customers, recovering abandoned carts, all those kind of automated emails that you get from brands that you probably don't even realize they're automated, but very, very powerful in terms of maximizing the lifetime value, the LTV of your customers, and minimizing the impact of the customer acquisition cost if you're doing a paid advertising strategy. So yeah, it's that ratio of LTV to CAC that is really the kind of basis of how profitable your brand is going to be. So that's a huge part of it. So upgrading the visuals and the interaction and how those emails kind of come across is very important. So coming up to Black Friday, wanted to spend a bit of time on that. So most of that is done now. Enough of it is done that I'm happy enough for now. It is something we'll look at again in the new year. But it's something I'll speak about in a few weeks. So over the next few weeks, like I was saying, next week is going to be a bit more about brand development, but over the next few weeks, probably 8 to 10 weeks, I'll go through a series of each kind of stage of brand development. So spoke about the idea development this week. It'll be the actual brand itself in terms of the initial development of that next week. And then we'll keep going from there until we get to a successful brand, which may be one that I'm developing at the minute. Let's see how that goes. All right, that's a bit of a brain dump on a Saturday afternoon while I stroll. Hopefully got a bit more value out of this week's video than you might have got out of the last 6 months of videos. I'm going to try and provide a little bit more value on the channel now over the next few months and into the future and see how that goes. It's starting to get a bit of attention, a few more subscribers. We're nearly at triple figures. So if you're not subscribed, please do. Please like the video, please leave a comment. Let me know if you got anything out of this. And if you do know anyone in who would be interested in the commercial real estate fitness space, tag them down below or send it to them or send them on to me. Let me know. It'd be really helpful. Thanks for the support again. See you next week.
A few moments later.
Future Chris on the way back from his walk just cutting in to say that I forgot that next week, 2 exciting things happening. On Monday, I'm on a panel discussion about improving or enhancing the creative industries in the northeast of Ireland. Creative industry, creative businesses. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to the Wealth Summit in the ODS in Dublin, where, shout out to Gary Fox, back to him again, is interviewing Stephen Bartlett. Nice. So that'll be interesting. So yeah, back to what I was talking about before. Hola, pasa? Jesus. Lost my train of thought now. Because I did it, I wasn't fully happy with it. Hello, there's my mother-in-law. And yeah.